All right, welcome everybody listening from all around the world, all around this beautiful blue-green planet we call Gaia. Welcome everybody here in Australia, this beautiful country of ours. Welcome to the Mystic Drop, where each week we try and journey down the road less traveled by, as the great Robert Frost once poetically put. I'm your host, Roberto Roya. Joining me today is Georgie Johnson. Georgie is a light worker, a deep spiritual thinker, and soul. She loves questioning the mainstream narratives and has always delved into the mysteries of life. Through her spiritual journey, Georgie has come into contact with alien, dimensional, and otherworldly spiritual beings. I'd like to welcome to the show, Georgie. How you doing?
Hi, good. How are you?
Very, very good. Thank you so much for being here and willing to share all your stories.
You're welcome.
Look, I've known you for a while now, and I was so surprised when you reached out to me and you said, look, Robbie, have I got some things to tell you, which I have never heard about. And I was shocked. And
how? I can't believe that we have never spoken about that.
We've had so many conversations over the years, but what you were telling me in our personal messages together, I was blown away. So I can't. I'm like the rest of the world. I'm very excited to hear your story.
Cool.
And journey. All right. But before we do that, we've got our Mystic Drop Incantation. So which I'd like to share with you. So it goes like this. We are two cosmic spiritual beings sitting around the campfire. Two drops of light from the Great Spirit. Truth is our path, and wisdom is our teacher. We start with a salute, and now let our magic flow. Again, thank you for your courage and willingness to share what you're going to share today, because I know it takes a lot with people that have gone. With people that have gone through. I love it. This is what we live for. So I'd like to thank you for that. So I want to jump right into the thick of things and start, at the beginning of how all these encounters and spiritual experiences started for you. Take us through your journey.
Yeah, wow. So I would have to say that it started on more of a spiritual level before I even had any kind of contact or viewings of aliens or whatever you want to call them, star people. Mine started at a very young age, where I grew up in the bush with no electricity, in like a little old wooden cabin. So we were in the middle of the bush, and I would honestly see like people running through the bush. Like I remember one time this man was holding this bucket and he had this little girl with him. And I even said to my dad, I was like, Dad, who's that? And he kind of looked up and was like, who? And I just remember being like, oh, well, they were there and then they disappeared, So that's my first kind of memory of where this all began. But it runs in my family. So growing up, we all kind of had those experiences. There's ones where mum and dad would come home and tell me they basically just had a barbecue with ghosts. And I was like, as a little kid, like, what do you mean? If you want to know that story, I can tell you that. That's a real far out story. That's a really cool one.
Get into it.
I'll touch on it. It's a pretty fun story. So where I lived, there was a house across the road, and it was like, I remember as a kid, it was like this tiny little old, nearly like a church, but it was tiny, bit creepy looking. Anyway, mum and dad left me at home, and I was probably like 11 or something like that. And they've gone across the road, and there was a neighbour who lived there. Anyway, apparently they were all kind of standing around. There was the three of them, mum, dad, and the guy who owned the house. And what happened was dad went around the corner to go to the toilet, and mum was kind of just leaning on the veranda sipping on a drink. Anyway, next minute, there was music. There were people everywhere, like old-fashioned, the big hair up and the old-fashioned bow ties and the
broad
big
brimmed
dresses
hats
for the women.
Yeah,
Crazy. And when dad was trying to go to the toilet, these little girls with big hair and big dresses were running around laughing at him, like, ha, 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 ha. And he was telling them, bugger off, go away, go away. Anyway, while that's happening, mum's on the veranda chinging wine glasses with this lady, having a conversation. She can't remember the conversation. And as dad's walked back around the corner, they've made eye contact and it's all stopped. Finished. And they've both, can I swear?
Yeah, go for it, yeah.
They both looked at each other and said, what the fuck just happened? And anyway, they were just so mind blown. It was like they were just put into this different dimension. And when the guy got back, the owner went to go and get wood, and he's come back, and mum and dad are just like, oh my God, rah, rah, rah. And the owner said, I knew if anyone would see it, it would be you guys. Wow. So he had seen it, like so many a time.
Well. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Was there a sense of time when all this was happening, or was it just like
they felt lost like in the moment? It was very early. Yeah, they felt like it was very early on, but they said there was such a nice vibe. They said all they remember is how good it felt. And so far out. Pretty cool.
Holy
Remember when they were telling me when I was little, I was like, what do you mean? It was, crazy.
So that's how it started for you when you were little, and how did it all personally come into your life on a personal level?
Yeah. I remember a good friend of mine had died in a car accident. And I remember that he started following me around. I felt him with me, and I felt him in my car for 2 years. I felt like he was with me in my car. There were a few close calls that I should have had an accident, and I didn't. And he would always give me little signs that he was around. And that was kind of and I remember I saw him, and then one night I'd actually seen him, and I was surrounded by a group of people, and I just went white, And ever since I saw him, it made me really realize that, like, no one really ever leaves, Yeah. We might be these vessels, physical vessels, but I just really do not think any of us really ever leave, Yeah, so he made me feel, sorry.
Yeah, I've always felt like we're there's so many layers to us, This physical body is just the beginning, tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. Right? Absolutely. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from then up until probably about a year or two ago, I kind of just would get little signs or, little feelings, or I think I didn't know that my intuition was as strong as it was. There was a lot of things that I was doing that I was just like, maybe I'm a bit psychic, or, maybe this, that, and the other. And it actually wasn't until I met Steph Warburton, who was on your show, until I connected with her, that's when things really escalated for me.
That's interesting.
Mm.
Wow. Yeah, it's like an energy force that you meet someone else, and it sparks all that magic, and unleashes it within you. So
absolutely.
So you said that through your own meditations that you've had experiences with in contact with these beings. You call it, you're not sure whether they're spiritual or alien, or talk us through it.
Yeah, I know one of them was definitely alien. And I'll take you through that meditation. It was actually quite bizarre. So you know how we all have that picture of an alien in our head, you know, they glow, they're kind of like that translucent color, they're long and, you know, whatever. That's exactly what I saw. So when I was deep in meditation, imagine in a house, you know how you have those shelves that are inbuilt into the wall?
Yeah.
Or like a shower cavity or something. So it's like he was all tucked up in there, and he had like his knees were right up to his chest. He was very long, but it's like he was tucked into like this little shelf. And he was so lovely, like so shy. It's like he nearly like wanted to talk to me, but he didn't. Like he was very shy. But when I had seen him, he showed me something. And I still to this day have no idea why they show us these things, but he showed me a concentration camp. And the concentration camp was in 2030. And there was Russians. That's the feeling I got. They were Russians, and they had, you know, the suits on with the hats and the badges and, you know, superior looking people. And then the image flicked over to these skinny people that were caught in the camps, like skin and bone. And this image stuck around for a while, and it played out like, you know, I don't know how long because I was in meditation, but I just remember seeing it. And yeah, like I basically got told that there was going to be a war in 2030. Yeah, that's the image I got, and that's the message they gave me.
Did you feel like, because you said Russians, did you feel it was gonna, it's mainly based in Europe, or like a world, it's gonna be like a worldwide war?
Yeah, so it didn't feel like Australia was in that war, or, you know, any other country was kind of in that war. It felt European, but at the same time, it still had this worldwide feeling, which, sorry to scare anyone if, you know, that's just what I got shown. And yeah, so quite bizarre, because as I said, it rattled my brain after it. I was just like, wow, like, what the fuck does that mean? Why did I get that information? You know? Yeah.
Yeah, wow. So, you know, with your meditation, so you met Steph. How long were you doing your meditations for before these sort of experiences were happening to you, and you were in contact with
I
him?
wasn't. It's kind of like I've had this little piece of me that has always tried to convince the other piece of me that this doesn't exist. It's kind of like this little voice doesn't want me to go any further with it, but this side of it is like, it's real, you know? So I didn't really start meditating until I had met Steph. And then we got a bit more, I got a bit more into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always thought that we've got this you know, dark angel in us. This is it's nothing to worry about here. Move on, keep living your life, you know.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that, because I've experienced that in myself as well.
Good. It's actually good to know that, because you're here now and you're doing what you're doing, and that voice hasn't taken over and gone, you know what, Birdo, you don't need to do this. That's fine. Just keep doing you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for so many years that same voice was saying, no, you're wasting your time doing this show and putting this sort of information out there. Just forget about it. So
forget about it.
Forget about it. It's fascinating. So, you know, there's got to be meaning to this. What does it mean to you? Why you think, not just for yourself, but I think so many people have these sort of experiences, and they're really timid to talk about it. Why do you think this is happening, especially in this time of history to humanity?
Look, to be honest with you, I don't think that it's just starting to happen now. I actually just think that people are starting to talk about it now because they don't feel alone anymore. There's so many people starting to come out with information and, experiences and things like that, that other people, it's like a snowball effect. They're going, oh, fuck, I can talk about it.
Yeah,
Exactly. Like it's, so I don't think that it's just starting to happen now. I think it's always happened, but people are starting to feel like they can talk about it.
Yeah. Well, 100%. Like you look at back in history, people that talked about this sort of stuff were burned at the stake. You had Giordano Bruno who was talking about there's other worlds out there, and there's other beings that live on those worlds, and they burn his ass at the stake, So there's this liberating movement that's going on, and this huge spiritual awakening that's happening, and it's beautiful to watch.
So good. Yeah. And it's kind of like the people in government parties now, it's like it's gone so far and there's been so many sightings that they're nearly being forced to admit it, It's like, well, fuck, we can't lie about this anymore. Like the proof's in the pudding. It's there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the Pandora's box is about to crack open and you're not going to get that lid back on.
Oh, so good.
So since it's all started, how has the relationship evolved with these beings for you, do you feel?
Since I've allowed myself to accept that what I am doing I can do, it's gotten so much stronger. And here's another little example. A few months ago, time's gone so quick, maybe like a year ago, I was working in a beauty salon, and this lady came in that is a good friend of mine. I know her locally, and anyway, I hadn't seen her for a while, and I won't mention her name, but I said, hey, so-and-so, let's just call her Louise. Hi, Louise. How have you been? And as I've asked that question, I've turned around to the basin to wash my hands. Now, she's behind me on the bed laying down. I'm about to do her eyebrows. And she started telling me how she was, and she mentioned that her mother had just passed away recently. And as I've gone to turn around to say, I am so sorry, I turned around and I stared at her, and I could see her mouth moving and looking at me, but I couldn't hear her. I couldn't move. I was frozen. And her mum had come to me, and she was a tough woman, and she was so abrupt, and she said, you tell Sandy that this isn't her fault, and, to not be so hard on herself. And I'm like, oh, okay. Boom, snapped out of it. I just said the name. Sorry. Anyway, that's not Louise anymore. Sorry. Can you edit that? So anyway, I stared at her, and she's like, Georgie, have I upset you? I'm so sorry. And I said, no. Your mum just came through to me, and I told her what her mum said, and her eyes glazed over, and she was just like, oh my God, because basically the conversation ended up being that this woman was feeling so terrible about her mum's passing, and she thought, she could have done more, and she just felt so bad. And I remember my throat started closing up, and I said, did your mum pass of something, like throat? And she said, yes, she kept vomiting. Like she couldn't hold any food down or whatever. And that night I got extremely sick. I lost my voice. I ended up with a really bad flu. For days I was bedridden. Like I was so sick. But what that experience did teach me is that why I do it, or why I don't do it, I don't practice it, but why I get that information is to pass it on to others. And that day made her feel so much better about her mum's passing, and it just made her feel so much more at peace with her mum physically being gone. So that's kind of what it means to me to, you know, if I ever get anything, I've now realised that's the answer.
What's the meaning behind it? And that's the advantage of it, and the beauty of it, that you're actually helping people heal within themselves as well.
Oh,
it's a special gift.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Have you had any other experiences like that where things have come to you and you've said something like that to people?
There's been an experience that I've had some really bizarre ones. I've had an experience where it was like a message to myself. So I was at the Gold Coast airport and I was waiting for a flight to head back to Victoria. Anyway, I was standing in the line and I was going through a really crappy stage, headspace, rah, rah, rah. Anyway, this little old lady came up to me and she started talking about her son. And she said, oh, my son, I don't know why she even started saying it, but she was like, my son's passed away. You know, I sat down at the ocean this whole holiday and I stared at the waves, and it made me realise how short life is, and it's too short for us to be unhappy. And she just said all these amazing things that just went bing. And I just thought, you're so right, you know, and it was a really beautiful conversation. Anyway, we're only on like a little small plane. Anyway, the ding ding went off and we all got on the plane. And I thought, no, you know what? Before we take off, I've got to tell this woman thank you, because it just meant so much. Mate, I walked up and down that aisle. Do you think I could find that woman?
Gone.
No.
Wow.
Gone. And she was on the same flight as me, because she even asked me where I was going, and she was on that same flight and she wasn't there.
I've been waiting for a story like this on this show, because I've just recently bought a book, and it's 101 stories of encounters with angels that have physically appeared, you know, and you know, helped somebody along the way, helped them heal themselves or whatever, or save somebody's life, and they were there 1 minute and then gone, and then nobody in the area or anyone that saw what happened ever saw the person that was helping out the other person. They just completely disappeared.
Crazy.
That is so interesting.
Crazy. Yeah. And I even think to myself, what the fuck did I look like? Was I standing there like talking to myself, like if you were looking in, or like what did I look like? Was I even talking back? Physically talk, you know, like it just, that whole experience blew my mind. I just couldn't believe that what had just happened.
So you walked up and down, you couldn't find her anywhere? Could
not find her anywhere. And I remember when I got picked up at the airport, I was telling that person, and I was like, and I swear she was there, and then she wasn't. And, you know, I was just so mind blown by the whole thing that, I've never experienced something like that before.
Did you have like at the moment, like in the moment, did you have like your own sort of conversation with her in your own head to say thank you?
I absolutely, because I kept saying to myself, like, to her, no, hold on a minute. I'm just saying this wrong. Too much coffee. So when I was actually physically talking to her, I remember saying thank you for sharing, thank you. But in my head, I didn't. In my head, I kept thinking, where the fuck is this woman? Like, has she missed her flight? But no, because that was also another time where I wasn't fully aware of my abilities, you know. So I don't even know how to explain.
That is such an amazing story. Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool. Huh?
How did she look like? Well, tell us a bit of details about.
Yeah, I can still remember her, this cute old thing. So she was so little. She was probably like 5 foot something. But yeah, anyway, a lot shorter than me, and I'm short. So she had really short salt and pepper kind of hair. And I remember she wore her glasses quite like kind of there on her forehead. And she was dressed quite nicely. Like she was quite modern looking. Like she, didn't look like she was from anywhere. And I just remember these really blue, bright eyes. And yeah, and that was it,
Yeah.
So crazy.
So
Yeah.
wow. That is amazing.
Yeah.
It is amazing. So
like I've even sorry.
there you go.
Like I've even probably 2 years ago, Josh and I were on our property and we were down at the shed just talking about painting or something like that. And I've looked over and there's this gentleman leaning on his work trailer. And I said, does your pop who passed away, I said, does he wear like big glasses and like a beige hat? And Josh said, oh, well, he wears glasses. I don't know about the hat. And I said, well, he's just over there, like, whatever. And it didn't last that long.
Yeah.
But I saw him there. And then a few months later, we went to Josh's father's house and we were flicking through photo albums and we're flicking through and here's this gentleman. And I was like, oh, that's the beige hat. That's the glasses.
No way.
Like, yep, that's my pop. And yeah, that's like it just.
How long had he been passed away for?
Maybe like by that time. Maybe like 3 or 4 years.
Wow. So he's popping in to say, I'm here, I'm still around.
Hello, I'm watching you.
G'day. I could just g'day. Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
And how was his reaction? How was Josh's reaction to
it? Josh is pretty cruisy. So he was just like, oh, okay. Like he believes in all this stuff, but he wants to see it. He's not a person who goes, I haven't seen that, doesn't exist. He's quite open to learning about it. And I remember, if you don't mind me just telling another thing, I remember being on my phone one morning and Josh and I were sitting in the lounge room and I saw this picture and I had no idea who it was, what had happened, but I saw this picture and there were these people lying down the road, like standing up, lying down this road, and I just started crying. Like, I'm not even joking. The biggest tears came out of my eyes and I looked at Josh and I said, these aren't my tears. And I just kept saying it to him. And he's like, what's going on? I just was like hysterical. Like, these are my tears. And I was like crying. And I said, he's not happy that he's gone. And Josh was like, who? I said, I don't know. And I clicked on the picture and a local man had actually died, I think of cancer, but it was really quick. And all the stuff with the family business and whatever, I ended up finding out that it wasn't ready for him to go. Like his family just had this big mess to deal with and he had like kids and a wife or whatever. And so I found out that like all his ducks weren't in a row before he left, and he just was so upset that he had left his family with all this stuff. But it was just so crazy that I looked at this picture and just looked at Josh and I was like, these aren't my tears. Yeah, it was really weird.
So that's like the second time that they've sort of gone into you and you've had like a physical reaction. You had the woman before in the beauty salon and you had the vomiting and now the tears. That's
physical reactions is really big for me. I always get a physical reaction. Like there was a lady who died of lung cancer, a friend's mum. But I didn't know at the time when he told me his mum had passed. And I went to bed that night with pains like under my ribs. And I was so sore. And I said to him the next day, I said, if you don't mind me asking, what did your mum die of? And he said lung cancer. And I was like, oh, well, she showed me that, you know. So
Yeah.
I always get a physical feeling.
Yeah. Have you ever thought of, going to, a psychic teacher or medium teacher, or finding a mentor and really honing in on this ability that you've got?
Yeah, I've tried to push Steph for ages, and she's neglecting me. So I hope when she watches this,
I guess it's a bit hard when you're like living in different states, but I'm sure like
not
if you
really.
no.
No, not really. Like when I talk to Steph, all of a sudden everything heightens for me.
Okay.
And we literally just talk on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's your activator.
Yeah, absolutely. She's nuts. But she's great.
And you know what I'd love to do? I cannot wait for one day to have like in person to have a sit down between the three of us and have it all out. Can you imagine?
Oh God, the conversation. Sorry, world, we probably won't film it.
Oh my God, that would be. We should like tape it as well, and I'll put it on the Mystic Drop, unedited, unplugged, raw.
You know that I should never be unedited or raw. I'm behaving myself tonight.
I can tell. I love it. So okay, so you've had these experiences with spiritual beings, dimensional beings through your family and everything, alien beings, and we've just probably hit on angels as well. How is this all connected, do you think?
Am I like an open portal where it's like they need to find something to get a message through? And it's like, I don't know, like every one that comes through or anything that comes through to anyone, whether it be you, me, whatever, it's like they just want to be heard. But then, like, my questions go further. Like, why do you want to be heard? You were just here. You know, like, it's, I don't know. I don't know. It's just, it blows my mind. Like, even,
I've thought about it a lot, and I'm like, do all these entities, you know, they interact with us, obviously, but do they interact with each other? You know? Are the angels going to the aliens, you know, and giving them messages of hope and whatever they need?
I tell you what, I want to go to that party.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine?
So cool.
Imagine that, like all these different creatures and entities, that non-human intelligences all together at one party, and you know, helping each other in their own way.
Bugger humans, that sounds the go. Sounds heaps better.
Yeah, because there's all these stories of them, you know, coming into our world and our reality and helping us on our journey. But I wonder if they all interact with each other as well. Yeah.
Wow. Imagine like a spirit being like, oh my God, an alien came to me last night.
Yeah, exactly. Or like an alien having his own podcast talking about what the angels are and the angels are doing. Yeah. And, you know, I saw Bigfoot the other day. We had a chat in the woods. You know, like, this could almost be like a TV show. You know, like how all the spiritual beings interact with each other, and then talk about the humans as well and their interaction with the humans.
How fun.
Oh my God. I think we're onto something here, eh?
We're definitely onto something. Actually, what I didn't tell you about, speaking of aliens, sorry, cockatoo in the background, what I didn't tell you about was the experience my father had. Do you want to hear about that?
Well, I was just about to ask you. I know you've told me before that your old man has been abducted by aliens.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Please share it. Please share. Is he all right with all this? Is he all right with all this?
Yeah.
All right.
So I was little. Once again, I can't remember how old I was, maybe like 10, 11, around that crazy age. And I was holidaying with my mum, and Dad stayed home because he was starting a new job. Anyway, he went to the local pub, and it was only like 4 kilometres from our house. And he had like 1 or 2 beers or something like that. Anyway, as I said, he was starting a new job the next day. So he was like, right, and it was still daylight when he left the pub. And he was like, right, I'm going home. Anyway, he wasn't going home. He ended up waking up in his car, like someone had just slid him back into the driver's seat, and he felt that, like he felt someone sliding him back in. He looked down, he was doing like 100K on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere. Now, if you know my dad, if anyone knows my dad, he doesn't even touch 80, like driving in 100 zone. So for him, that is just so crazy.
So he woke up doing 100 in the middle of the
dirt road. He was still driving. The car was still going. Yeah. So then he's looked at the time, and it's like 3 in the morning, right?
What time did he leave again?
Oh, in the afternoon. It was still daylight. So
like 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Like, so he left at about probably, like 3, 4 in the afternoon.
Yep.
And then when he got slid back into his car, it was like 2 or 3 in the morning.
AM.
So it was pitch black.
Wow.
Yeah. And he was like, what the fuck? Like, so he's put the brakes on, he stopped the car, and he got out and he looked around, and he didn't recognize where he was. And he was like, what the hell? So he got back in his car and he just slept for a little bit. Then he's woken up at about 5 o'clock, and like the sun was coming up or whatever. So we live in New South Wales. He was 5 kilometres from the Victorian border. So he had driven all that way, which generally would take maybe like 2 hours from where we are, maybe. Something like that. And so he would have had to like cross the highway, turn onto the highway. He ended up on like a mountain, basically, on a dirt road. And so then he drove himself home, and I remember for weeks he just kept like scratching his nose. He couldn't stop rubbing his nostril. And so that's pretty wild.
Wow. So okay, so let's go back to, he's going to the pub, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Or to the bottle-o?
No, sit down and have a drink at the pub.
At the pub, right. So he gets in the car and he's driving. At what point did he black out? Did he recall?
He doesn't remember.
He doesn't remember.
Like, all he remembers is getting into his car.
That's it.
All he remembers.
And then waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning near the Victorian border.
Near the Victorian border, yeah. And he said that one weird thing that he does remember from the pub, he said that there was this gentleman there, and he had like this long trench jacket on. He didn't have any shoes on, and he had like this hat on. And he said he like had this mysterious kind of look or feel to him. And he doesn't know if this guy is something to do with it, but he just thought that was a bit odd as well.
And you'd never seen him at the pub before?
Nah, and it's a tiny town. Like, you know everyone. Yeah.
Wow. Has he ever done any like regression therapy?
He's old school. He doesn't want to do any of that, you know.
So what did he put it down to? Even up till today, what does he put it down to?
Aliens. Yeah, that's all he can think of.
Because there's I've done a lot of research into this, and there is so many cases where people just have this missing time. They go somewhere, especially in the car. They're in the car, they're sitting in the car, they're driving, but I've never
Yeah.
heard of when the person is put back in the place, the car's actually going at 100 k's an hour.
And as I said, my dad does not do 100 k's. Like, nah, he drives like Miss Daisy. Sorry, Dad, but it's true.
Wow. No, it'd be really interesting if he, you know, coming up to an older age now, that if he's open to do a regression.
Yeah.
And then to find out what really happened, because it's stored in there. It's stored in there.
Oh,
in the subconscious.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Dad's had a lot of weird experiences. Like, he also gets, you know, spirits contacting him, and look, all my family do. But I don't know, no one's really ever done anything about it. Like, I know that my grandmother was she was a clairvoyant. She was, like a psychic medium and a bit of a gypsy. She would always do like card readings, or maybe that was her. I know the clairvoyant part is her, but the card readings and stuff, I think that might have been her mother before that. But anyway, yeah. So it's kind of always been in the family, but a lot of my family don't really want to delve into it.
Yeah.
I think it kind of scares them a little bit.
Is your grandmother, you said she was the clairvoyant?
Yes.
Yeah. Is she, so she's passed?
Yes.
Has she ever come through to you?
No, never. No, not that I know of.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I just can't get over this story about your dad. Like, wow.
Yeah.
And there's just a total blank. There's nothing, not a speck of detail of being in a craft, in a space, beings, nothing.
I wish. How cool would that be? Oh yeah, Dad's been in an alien ship. But no, I wish. No, he's got nothing. No.
But that's the thing. This is the thing. So from where you are and where he ended up is 2 hours. But from the space of the afternoon and 3 a.m., that's way more time. So where was the other?
Much.
Yeah, exactly. What was he doing in the other, 5 hours, 6 hours?
Yeah. I know. I want answers. Crazy.
Nuts. That is nuts. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
No, I reckon you should try and convince him to do the regression.
Oh yeah, he's a stubborn old thing.
I'll get him on here. I'll get him on the show and we'll have a chat.
Yeah. Yeah, do that.
If you could, personally, what would you like to personally say to all these beings that you've had experiences with?
Oh, thanks for the opportunity. Like, I just feel like not everyone's open enough to receive this kind of experience, and I wish more people did get to experience this. So thank you. Yeah, then keep it coming. I'm interested. Yeah.
Hey, you're still young. You got a whole life ahead of you. So yeah, I'm sure we'll do a lot of different other episodes with you, with more stories to come in the future.
Oh God, I'm sure. And look, I've got like a whole suitcase of stories. We could be here for 3 more hours.
Yeah,
with just stories.
We might do that. Yeah. We might break it up and get you back on and talk about the other
story time.
Yeah,
story time with Georgie.
Story time with Georgie. What's the biggest lesson you've learned in your life so far?
Oh, biggest lesson I've learned in my life so far. I connect with animals more than I do with people. Which is so true. Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting to say that. My fiance Kat, exactly the same. She'll be on Facebook, scrolling through, and she follows all the animal stuff. And I'm sitting there on the couch. I'm sitting there on the couch watching, and I turn to her and she's crying. What are you crying about? And she shows me. She's, look, this is the dog there. It's just the dog looking at the camera. I'm like,
She sounds like a beautiful woman. Good
beautiful
woman.
soul, beautiful soul.
Yes. Yes. Well, I have a story about just quickly.
I've got something else as
When
well after you say what you're saying about animals. Yeah, go
okay,
on.
it's just
Go
a
on.
really quick one. Really quick one. This is what makes me convinced that I'm more connected with animals than I am with people. I had a healing done years and years and years ago. And when I was under meditation or just not conscious enough to, think forward, I had this image in my head during the healing, and I was little me with this long blonde feral hair, this little hippie girl, and I was walking through the forest, and I never really had any friends as a little kid. And all of a sudden in this forest, all these animals came out of nowhere, elephants, tigers, lions. And I remember the elephant picking me up on his trunk and sitting me on his back. And we walked out onto the beach, and it was just this bright, sunny, calm ocean. And I just remember looking around down at all my animals, and I was like, this is it. This is where I'm meant to be. And it was just, I woke up and just cried. So that was a really weird experience as well. But yeah, so anyway,
And
you go.
So I grew up as a Roman Catholic, traditional Catholic, religious, all that. Yeah. Until I started questioning everything, because they believe that animals don't have souls. Animals don't have souls. And you look at a horse. You look into the eyes of a horse. You look into the eyes of an orca, killer whale, a dolphin, a lion. There's something there. A dog. There's so much love. There's so much magic there. And I always questioned it, and I had this dream when I was I'm sharing this publicly. Why not? I had this dream when I was in my teens, and I've always had this connection to killer whales, orcas, and because I've always got this connection that I've had past lives in the Native American cultures, and that's
I remember that.
We've had that conversation before. But anyway, I had this dream, and I was by the beach on the sand, and I saw these 3 orcas coming into the shore, and they transformed into 3 Native American chiefs. And the one at the front, he came forward, and he said to me, I remember this clear as daylight. He said, no matter what happens in your life, we'll always be here for you. And I was just like overwhelmed with this love and care that these, whoever they were always going to be there for me, and then he just turned around and walked into the water and became orcas again and swam off, and I woke up. And
so have you ever looked up the meaning of like a spirit, like what the spiritual meaning might be of an orca?
Well, everyone has their own spirit animal, I believe, that they're the two, and I believe that the orca is my one.
Yeah.
It represents freedom. It represents family, because they all travel in packs. And I believe that we've incarnated into this life in soul groups, not just who your initial family is, but everyone that you meet along the way that you're connected to, and that you can share these sort of conversations with.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah.
So in terms of animals, I think that they've got a lot to teach us.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I think that animals teach us more than humans do. And I wish humans would, like, have you ever watched a bird make a nest, or have you ever watched a spider weave a web? Magic. It is fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Like, they're not stupid. It's, look, I could go balls deep on this conversation, but I won't.
We just went down a rabbit hole, I feel.
I know.
Oh my God. So I always like to. No, we're definitely going to do this again, and we'll get into more stories with you, and I'll share some as well. But I always love to finish on hope. So what messages of hope would you like to share with humanity?
Hui. Okay. Messages of hope. I think it'll be all right. I think everything will be okay. We've just got to get through this. And by getting through this, we've got to come together, stop dividing, stop, division, no matter what opinion you've got on anything in life. We won't say the word, but at this point in time, just come together. That's what it's about. Stop. Yeah.
It's so
Stop
simple.
being dickheads.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Stop treating each other like dickheads.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all I got for you there. Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. Oh my God! Thank you so much for all that and sharing pieces of your journey and your heart, your soul. I love it. Love it. This is what this show's all about.
Absolutely. I think we're going to need a part 2.
Oh, we've just touched the clef notes of this whole thing. So no, definitely going to get you back on. And no, such a pleasure to talk to you, Georgie.
You too.
No worries. We'll do it again soon. I'm Roberto Roya from The Mystic Drop. You've been listening to Georgie Johnson. Ciao, Georgie.
Bye.
Ciao.